second for everything to catch up. Mr. Fisher was the first one in the chat tonight. Good to see you, Chevy Fish. Good to see you. Hope everybody is doing well. I have a topic for tonight. It's going to be plants. And what I want to talk about... Oh, hang on. Okay. I don't know why the video looks so crappy tonight. Anyways, what I want to talk about tonight is plants. What is the best plant that you grow, and what's the worst plant that you grow? I'll start off with the best plant I think I grow, hands down, is Christmas moss. And here comes Charlotte already into the live stream. And Havana's at my feet right now. Anyways, I think my best plant that I grow is Christmas moss. It just grows. I don't have to do anything. The second best plant, as far as thriving, I would say is probably pearlweed in the immersed form. I float it, and that's the picture of the thumbnail of tonight's live stream is pearlweed. And that was a plant that I kept for probably a year before I really had success with it. And I didn't really change anything as far as fertilizers go. Water parameters. I just realized that it works better for me at least in my fish room, floating. So that plant is doing really well, and I was kind of going to tie that with crypts. I feel like I do really well with crypts, and whether or not under highlight, which is kind of this mini cube tank in here, the crypts are really small. I mean, they actually got smaller once I converted this to a shrimp tank, just because that nano light is so powerful that it's keeping everything very compact. But anyways, I want to know what plants you guys, the viewers, have luck with, and what plants you don't have luck with. So on the flip side, those are the plants I have really good luck with. And the number one plant I just do terrible at is Java Ferns, which is surprising because Java Fern is listed all across the internet as a beginner plant, super easy, super hardy, low light, does great, and I do terrible with it. I don't know why I do terrible. I've had it in different tanks. I think it's such a slow growing plant that it just always looks terrible to me. Like it either always gets brown spots or it just looks raggedy. For some reason, I'm just terrible with Java Ferns, and the internet says I shouldn't be, but that's how it goes. And I'm just curious if you guys have your favorite plant or your least favorite plant. But let me see. This coffee is hot. Evan Cardwell said, showing off that new PC build. Yep, it's up and running. And I got this open on YouTube, and it looks so terrible. Is your guys' quality super bad? Because mine looks super bad on my end. Hopefully it's just for some reason my internet. But I'm streaming, so that's also not good. It looks like it's from 1990. But anyways, Penny Dar said, came from OFR Live. First time here. Penny, welcome to my Friday night live stream. Every Friday night, 8:30 p.m., right after OFR. Or during. Sometimes they run late, but 8:30 is when I go live. Mike said, at Cherryfish, you're better at promoting Steven's store than he is. That's true. I feel, I don't know, I feel weird when I start promoting stuff too heavily. I don't want to give off the vibe that I'm just pushing sales on people. But Chevy Fish does an excellent job. So do all my moderators at advertising. Ryan is here. Good to see you. Rich, Tiffany White, Pool Boy Willis, Texas Fish Room, Sue-Ann, Mrs. Meldahead. Good to see everybody. Trying to catch up. Matt F. Good to see you. Quality is fine here. All right, awesome. Matt F. said, my favorite plants come from 614fish.com. You can get yours too at 614fish.com. Use code YouTube for 10% off. Matt F., I see what you did there. I like it. But yes, my website, if you're new here, is 614fish.com. 614 is the area code to Columbus, Ohio. If you came from OFR, you probably see me in some of their videos, or you hear Big Rich or Josh talk about me. I go up there to help out the rescue as much as I can. I kind of run my trips to OFR around my dogs. If my parents are in town and they can watch my dogs for the weekend, I go up to OFR and hang out. If they're not in town, then it's kind of like a short trip for a few hours and then drive home. It's just under 2 hours to OFR from my house, so I try to stay the night if I go up there. Let's think of what other plant stuff. So, 614 tabs, the root tabs. I mentioned this last live stream. I've been working on making my own, and it was kind of a pain in the butt, to be honest, with the little pill loader system. To find out later that my fertilizer manufacturer makes root tabs. They are shipped. I have a tracking number. They should be here this coming week. So if you're interested in trying some legit root tabs, it's going to be a 60 pack. It's going to be an intro price. So this first shipment, just kind of want to get the name out there and let you guys try it. It's going to be $15 for 60 of them. And I think they're going to do extremely well for you. It's going to be comparable to like the Tropica root tabs, the Easy root tabs from Aquarium Co-op. Pretty similar to the C-Chem ones. I don't have the exact analysis of the C-Chem ones, but it's going to be, along those lines. But it'll be 60 tabs for $15, and that will be available as soon as they get here. Now, here's the kicker, or the downside is there won't be labels on the bottle because I can't make labels until I physically get the bottle in my hand. So that way I can do dimensions and see how I want to do the label. So they're going to be unlabeled until I can get the bottles, but I will put them for sale because I already know there's people that want them and they'll buy them without the label. So Matt S says 614 tabs get you growing. They are wife approved. HSB says, I have yet to get any plant to last long at all, with or without ferts. My next attempt is Java moss. Hornwort is doing okay, just not thriving. Pearl weed died. Guppy grass gets eaten. So I actually used to have hornwort in my indoor plywood pond, and it was going gangbusters. It took over the whole pond. I moved it to some other tanks, and it just immediately died, and all the little needles kind of fell off of it. I only was able to get it to grow in that pond. So I don't know. Like when it's going gangbusters, it's pretty awesome. But as soon as that hornwort dies, it does make a mess. It's like a Christmas tree that's 3 months past its prime, and all the needles are falling off. But hornwort was a half and half for me, and I was selling it online, but then I stopped because I was afraid that if I'm having this problems of transferring it tank to tank and having it die right away, what would keep that from doing that to you guys? And I didn't want that. Something that I know could possibly fail. I didn't want to sell it. So yeah. All right. Von Yunzer is here. Good to see you. Ryan said, looks like poop, low resolution. That's how it was looking on my computer. It's a little bit better now. I'm guessing my internet is having issues at the moment for whatever reason. Trying to keep up with the comments tonight. Penny says, well, I have plant question. I have a moss ball in my year-old tank. Now I have furry moss growing on my driftwood and a few plants. Is it from that ball? How to get rid of it? If you're saying furry moss, I doubt it's from that moss ball. it's probably some sort of algae. If it's on driftwood and a few plants, I'm guessing that's algae. Well, a moss ball is technically algae anyways, but for the most part, we'll consider a moss ball a plant. Um, I would guess, because moss balls, they're so slow growing, and the way they work, it's an algae, and they're in a river, and they're constantly tossed and turned through the current. That's how they become round. Um, I know that I sell moss balls, and I've never had them create new moss in a tank. So I'm guessing it's some sort of algae that you have that's growing on those items. The best way is to make sure that you're not too rich in any kind of nutrients. Make sure your nitrate levels are good. Hi, Charlotte. Make sure your nitrates levels are good, because if you got high nitrates and you don't have other plants other than that moss ball to eat those nitrates, that's where your excessive algae could be coming from. Light timers. That. So I've kind of proven, and we're going to go down the rabbit hole here. I've kind of proven before that light timers are not really a necessity to keep algae from growing. It's really about the nutrients. So my rack system out in the fish room, I have a light on there that runs 24 hours a day. It never turns off. There's no fish in those tanks. It's just plants. And those plants do great, because even though they're getting light 24 hours a day, they're getting nutrients 24 hours a day. And it was kind of just like a test. Like everybody says, run your lights 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day. If you get algae, run it 6 hours a day. No algae in those tanks, because the plants can keep up with the nutrients. But the way you can remove it is just physically, during your next water change. Just use your hands and rub the leaves on the plants, and that will kind of scrape off the algae. Then do your water change, because your water is going to get mucky from scraping them. And then, siphon that out, and then top off your tanks. You might have to do it once a week for a few weeks, but eventually that will kind of help subside that algae growth, and then try to correct the algae issue. It's usually either too much light or too much nutrients. Typically, it's because of too much nutrients, in my experience. Matt said, to get your comment noticed by Steven, type at SU Aquatics with your comment. This will highlight it for him, and that is 100% true. Makes it way easier for me to see questions, if you have any. Let's see here. I've had luck keeping Anubias, swords, and hairgrass. Floaters and most stems die on me. Trying them again though. Alright, so Nubius, I'm just trying to think of my experience with what you've had. Nubius I do fine with. Let's see, swords. Oh, let's talk about swords, guys. So this is the first time this has ever happened to me with a sword plant. And the Vienna guppies are in this tank now, and they're doing great. I got 4 pregnant females, like, ready to pop any minute now. But anyways, this sword plant, I just noticed it this week. So I need to go back into last week's live stream and see if it was like this. And, like, I just didn't notice it. But she sent, I call it a she, this this sword plant up front. Where's... The video is so crappy on my computer, I don't know if you can see it. If you can see this bunch right here, this is what's called a daughter plant. So this sword sent off a second plant. And it's actually got like 3 different sections to it. So that's the first time I've ever had a sword plant. And you guys remember like a month or 2 ago when I had this ginormous ones in the back that actually a subscriber bought from me. Those things were doing really well, and they never sent off a daughter plant. So it could be that the plant, like with plants, when they start setting off runners, they're either doing really well or they're doing really bad. And the case is with Java ferns, when they get stressed, they start populating new little baby Java ferns on the leaves. But with this plant, it's just doing really well. It still has immerse grown, and this is Havana, by the way, if you're new. This is my red-nosed pitty. She is awesome. But but she just wants some attention. Um, I just forgot squirrel. What was I thinking of or talking about? It's still got immersed growth on it, but the submerged growth that has come in is like super dark green. It's just looking amazing. So this will be the first time I've propagated sword plants, which I'm excited about. So I'm going to let that daughter plant, even though it's kind of floating mid up in the water column, it didn't grab roots like to the side. It's kind of lifted. When the plants are floating like that, the roots typically get pretty long because they're trying to reach that substrate. So I'm going to give it a few more days, let those roots get longer, and then I'll have these really big roots to be able to plant in the substrate to really give it a good head start. The two fry in this tank that I said I saw last week, they're pretty much 100% super reds. I did post a picture to the community tab this week. I think I happened to get both of them in one picture, and they're definitely super red. So the super reds had a couple eggs that made it, and they hatched. And I've only ever seen the two. I'm trying to see if I see them anywhere, but actually I see one right now. He's in this. You're not going to be able to see it because the quality's so crappy. He's in this potted Crypt Wendetti red plant. But man, they're growing fast. And then speaking of baby plecos, the brilliant bristlenose that's in here, that one baby, he's getting pretty big. I think he's almost to the inch mark. I mean, he's very thin and slender, but he's probably almost an inch long. And I think once he gets a little bit bigger, I'm probably going to offer him for sale. It's going to be a one and done because he's the only baby I have. But I wanted to keep him. It was the first one I've hatched so far, and it was going to be kind of sentimental. But I got so much money in this breeding group that I should try to start recovering or recouping some of that money. So I think I will sell that one baby bristlenose. I need to do some more research to see, kind of price them for the market because they are pretty rare. It's not a pleco that you can just go online and buy. You might be able to prove me a liar and somebody's got them now, but I know a few weeks ago when we were on the live stream talking about them, they weren't available. So, all right. That aside, I'm going to butcher this again. Raheem says, "Hi, SC Aquatics. Hello, good to see you." Okay, I see my name tagged a few times. Let me see where we're at. At IHSP, I do put root tabs by the swords and grass and nubious feeds from the water column. Yeah, so the 614 root tabs, which will be available this coming week, as soon as they land, I will put them on the website. I will get some pictures of the blank bottles, I guess, and show you guys, I guess, what you're getting. And then as soon as I get those bottles, I'll be working on labels. And I also it's actually a really good timing because I gotta do labels for the instant baby brine shrimp. So I'll be able to do that in one label order, and I'll be able to save some money on shipping. Von Yenzer said, one of my swords threw a daughter plant. Same thing, had about 3 babies come off of it. I have not had it happen again. Yeah, this is exactly what's going on. There's 3 of them. There's a little one at the top, one in the middle. Ooh, there's actually 4 on this one. Now that I look at it, there's one at the very bottom. But only the middle one is shooting roots. The other ones are just kind of along for the ride. So probably what I'll do is trim it at the root plant that, and leave the 2 that are above that, and let it still help feed that new plant. And if those two smaller ones further up the stem shoot roots, I'll do the same thing and just propagate them out. So that's awesome. But yeah, the swords, they're coming in. What's crazy is the immersed growth is coming in with vengeance now, and I have been starting to dose this tank pretty heavily, but I think a lot of it is the root tabs are finally catching up to all my testing. With putting the root tabs in there and waiting 3 to 4 weeks and then testing more. I think I just like overload it to where they're just going gangbusters now. They're really tapping into it all because they're all doing really good. They're not really. I don't have those ones in the background listed for sale yet because they still have immersed growth on it, and I don't want to list them until that's gone because that's just free nutrients. As that immersed growth is dying, the main plant's sucking the nutrients out of those leaves. So I want to leave it, and that way, it can fully. I don't know if the words are recover, but fully regrow with all the help it has. Matt F said he sold to me. The rest of you can go to 614fish.com and buy other stuff. Oh, that's funny. IHSB said I heard 30 to 100 for Super Red, I think. So I'm scrolling. I'm not sure what 30 to 100 for Super Red is. If you're talking about pricing, Super Reds are anywhere from $9.99 on sale up to, well, it depends on the store. They're going for some money right now. They kind of fluctuate. They were really cheap for a minute, but right now they're kind of like mid-range. I think I have them listed on the website right now for like $12.99 a piece. If you're talking about breeders, my breeding trio, which is where all these Super Reds came from, I forget how much I paid. I think I paid $200 to $300 for a breeding trio, and then I sold them because there's another local breeder that's way over breeding them, and he's just trying to get rid of them. That's the ones I sell online are from the other local breeder. So I sold off my trio, and I just buy babies that he's already grown, just to speed things up on my end. Now the Brilliant Bristle Nose, I paid quite a few $100 for the breeding group on those. Okay, where are we at? I think I'm at. Why am I in top chat? I was in top chat, which I know I switched it to live chat when I joined, so I don't know why that switched. Man, this has got me all sideways now. Let me see where I was at. IHSB says I have green algae in one of my tanks that I thought was blue-green algae, but it's not going away with treatments and it nearly needs scraped off with a razor blade. So I almost constantly get. I mean, I guess I always consider it blue-green algae in a tank here and there. And what's crazy is my fry rack, which is all shared water. One tank will get blue-green algae, but none of the other tanks. And it's just, I think, a water flow issue with that tank. And it sounds like you already know what to do. You said you already treated it, and with the algae, you can treat it with. Is it Maricin? I believe Maricin will treat the blue-green algae. Erythromycin maybe too. I have the medications twisted in my head right now. So it is a medicated. You can treat it with medication. When I first ever had it, when I first set up the flow-through rack system, I got it, and I ended up putting snails in there. And the craziest thing was they end up eating it. So if you got snails in that tank, you might want to just keep your eye on it. Do some water changes to try to keep the nutrient level down so that blue-green algae doesn't, have extra nutrients to thrive. But it took a few weeks, but slowly but surely it started disappearing till it was gone. And now I just get it kind of randomly. In the blue-green stain remover. What's the blue-green stain remover? I don't know what that is. No snails. Okay. Searching blue-green stain remover. Ultra Life. Okay. What is in it? I haven't heard of it before, so that's why I was looking it up. Havana. Havana is doing her little whining at me. I think it's the same as Chemi Pure, Chemi Clean. Yeah, I'm not sure. Not positive. I'm trying to think what else. So the 614 root tabs will be here this coming week, which I'm super excited for. And here comes the dogs again. They are just hoarding for attention tonight. Also, if you're new here, this is Havana. The Dalmatian is Charlotte, and she is deaf. So if you see me doing sign language, it's not because I'm mad at Matt F., but I am trying to talk to Charlotte. And Charlotte's head is now on my knee. Hasn't made a dent. Yeah, if you got some snails, maybe try to put a couple snails in there and see if they'll munch on it. Other than that, it might be a manual removing type deal for you, which sucks, I know, but mine was always on sand, so every time I went to scoop it out with the nano net, dang it, I don't have one handy right here. Yes, I do. I would always use this little nano net, 614fish.com. You get yourself one of these nano nets. Anyways, it would always pull sand with it, so I always lose a little bit of sand every time. But come here. So I hate having to remove algae by hand. It's never fun. That's why I just love Charlotte's blocking me. That's why I love snails, because they keep everything clean. And I saw a post on our local fish club. Somebody was asking about trying to get some snails. I guess they never had snails, so they're looking for recommendations. And I saw people immediately say, get assassin snails to keep your snail population under control. I sound like Bob Barker, get your dog spayed or neutered on Price is Right. But I find that's not really the problem. The problem is that snails' population grows because of food sources. So if you got a ton of algae, there's going to be more snails, which is great because they're going to keep that algae under control. Once the algae kicks back, kind of the population goes down. The only time really snails get out of control is like when I'm trying to make them go out of control because I sell them and I overfeed the tank. And whether that's putting green beans in there, kelp wafers, algae wafers, things like that. Other than that, they stay pretty balanced. Alright, I see my name. Globe Gaming. What's up, man? Hope you're doing well. Just got some zebra snails for my first snails. Not exactly sure what kind. What should I use for calcium for them? P.S. Will calcium harm other fish? Globe Gaming, good to see you. Great question. Zebra snails, you're saying which kind? I'm guessing they're zebra nearite snails. If they are really round and maybe the size of a nickel or quarter might be too big. We'll say the size of a nickel. It's probably a zebra nearite snail. It's a great snail. They don't reproduce in freshwater, so if you bought 3 of them, you'll only ever have 3 of them. Or if you bought 2, etc. They are algae eating machines. They do a really good job at eating algae. And if you have algae right now, it's going to take them a little bit to catch up, but they'll make a dent on a tank fairly quickly. To add calcium, so I have a video on my channel. If you just go to my channel and search for calcium, I use chicken eggshells to add calcium. The other thing you can do is add calcium sulfate. Do I have any sitting here? Comes in a bag. Or Wonder Shells, which, that's a good plug, good segue. I got more Wonder Shells in this week. They should be on the website. And I know I got the supers in last week. They're on the website. This week I got the large. But these are really good for not only snails but shrimp. You pop one of these in your tank, it slowly dissolves over time. Quicker if your water is super stripped of nutrients, it will dissolve quicker. By quicker, it's not going to be a day. It's still going to be a while. But they are, calcium is safe for shrimp, for fish, for your plants. And if you have plants, they're going to eat that calcium because they need calcium. If you have shrimp, it's going to be the same thing. Their shells need that calcium. So really, adding calcium to a tank is just all around a good thing. And the other thing, I believe I mentioned it last week when I was talking about the root tabs. I don't know, with how crappy the quality is tonight, these are all those empty gel caps. I think I just dropped one. I'm playing around with the idea of making calcium pills that you can put in your tank, just for that reason. So if you're trying to dose the tank, and it's going to be quicker than a Wonder Shell. So a Wonder Shell dissolves out over time, which is great, because it's slowly releasing everything in there. The pill is kind of a quick, like, let's get calcium in this tank. It's great for if you're adding stuff, if you got shrimp babies. So just a different product, I guess. But great question. It won't harm other fish. It's actually good for everything pretty much. And yeah, I would. If the cheapest thing is eggshells. Buy a dozen eggs, make breakfast, keep the shells, grind it up as finely as possible, and put some in your tank. If you don't want to buy Wonder Shells, if not, Wonder Shells are the easiest thing. You buy one, you toss it in, and you're good. And it's got a good visual when you see it's gone. Just buy another one, or always buy a few, keep on hand, and then when it's dissolved out, toss another one in. Matt F says, sold my first 8 fish today. Congratulations. Was a little weird having a stranger come to my house. So I guess I can throw my experience with that. So I do local pickup, and when I originally started doing it, I was doing it at a local place like library right down the road. Meeting people there. And now people come to my house. I don't let anybody in my house. I mean, obviously it's multiple reasons. I don't want somebody in my house I don't know. And the main reason, and that's not even like the main reason, like, oh, don't let a stranger in your house. I have yet, knock on wood, I've yet to meet somebody that's been a bad fish person, like somebody I just didn't like this person's a terrible person, like, holy crap. Everybody's been super nice, and that's what I really like about this hobby is everybody's super nice. I mean, everybody. The reason why I don't let people in my house that are doing local pickups is because we get to talking. So if somebody, I've had this happen before and I feel bad because there's people that you can tell they want to come in, and whether or not they want to see like all the products. It's kind of like a fish store, like a super mini fish store. My computer buddies, because of the streaming, they call me a 7-Eleven because they see all this stuff on the wall and they think these are all like bags of chips or something. So they think I'm working in a 7-Eleven. But but they want to see the fish room. They want to see all the tanks. And I don't want to say all the tanks like there's that many. There's somewhere around 55, give or take a couple. But it's, this might be somebody at home with one 75-gallon tank or one 10-gallon tank. So 55 tanks is a lot to them. To me, it's just a lot of work, but it doesn't seem like a lot of tanks because I still want more tanks. But the thing is talking. And I learned my lesson. I had one person come in, and it was like 4 hours they were here. It was a great time. It was nothing negative. Like, we talked about fish, but it was for 4 hours. And this is going to sound bad, and I don't mean it to sound like this, but my time's valuable. And so, like, when it's a Saturday and somebody's here for like 4 hours, that's like not like a personal friend or family, but I work 40 hours. I work a full time job, and then sometimes I work Saturdays with my full time job. So when I get home from work, and I always schedule like an hour after I get home, somewhere around there, so that way I can make sure I get home or shower or whatever I need to do. But then they're here for 4 hours, which is great, but like I still have orders to do. I need pack orders, ship orders. I need to try to keep my hands in the fish tanks doing things. Um, I just couldn't have that with every single local pickup because it would be hundreds of hours a month of just talking, which is great, but not when I'm trying to do stuff. Um, so that's why local pickups I have no problem with. I just don't invite anybody in the house just because, not because I'm worried about them, because if there was something scary going on, Havana's going to take care of it. And I'm also pro gun owner, so that's a whole nother topic. We won't go down there. But I'm not worried about my safety or anything like that. I'm just worried about my time, and we get to talking, and when I get to talking, it could be hours. And one of my buddies, Mike. Uh, so Mike, don't think this is about you. This is not about you. Mike will come over, and he could be here for 3 hours, and we have a good time talking about fish, other companies, YouTubers, just hanging out on the couch. He was here on the live stream a couple weeks ago. We have a great time. But if that happened to like every single night, I would never get anything done. But when he comes over, it's a great time because he's my buddy, and I enjoy that. And I enjoy talking to the local people. It just takes up too much time. So I would recommend making sure that you don't invite people in unless you got nothing going on and you're comfortable with it and you want to show them your tanks. That's cool. But if you know that you gotta leave in an hour, no one ever stays around just for an hour. It goes on and on and on. Mrs. Melhead said, "Wait, you talk at SE Aquatics?" I do talk. I do talk. All right. I know I just kind of went off topic there, or not off topic, but kind of went. Let me see. Kettlebone for birds is good for snails and shrimp and crayfish. Crayfish is actually another thing I want to try. Um, I see like all the color morphs. It really interests me. I would only get them if I know I'm going to be breeding them. So I kind of need to do some research and before I dive into buying some and make sure it's something like, hey, I can breed these. Maybe they're similar to shrimp. I don't know. I need to research it. Before I jump into it, I need to do some research. I hear Havana out there. She just wants to go outside. Matt F said, yeah, he's still here. I locked him in one of the cages. Oh, man. I tried to avoid it, but he wanted to pick out mutts. That's the other thing. We're going to go for a little walk here because I think Havana needs to go outside. That's her let me out bark. So we're going to go for a walk. You want to go outside? We'll go outside? Oh, you bee. She's acting like she doesn't want to go outside. Let's go outside. Come on. She just wanted me out here. She tricked me. We'll go out in the fish room anyways. Oh, here she comes. Here she comes. Go get him. Just get him. There they go. Get a little bit of a background going. We'll see. Probably right here-ish. Anyways, that's the other thing. With mutt guppies, Matt, you said they want to pick out their mutts. They're mutt guppies for a reason. And I'm just trying to give you some, I guess, tips. I know with my mutt guppies, you literally, there's no guarantee on what you're getting. There's no guarantee that you're getting all females, all males, direct 50-50 mix, or strains. Mutt guppies could literally be Vienna guppies. They could be blue tuxedo guppies, which are all in the back somewheres. They could be my 614 ones that you're calling them, or they could be my tuxedo guppies. You just never know. It could be anything, and that's the whole point of muck guppies is they're supposed to be random, and people are picking like. I guess I mean it's like at a fish store you can definitely pick out exactly what you want to be specific, which is fine. But you know if you're trying to, I know you're trying to sell fish and stuff, you gotta almost like draw a line somewhere because if not, you know, you it's about time. And at first it's fun. Like I had like when I first started this, I would have no problem like when somebody would be like, "Oh, I want this or this or this or that." You start off and that's fine, but I just saw Mrs. Mullenhood comment. I'll address that in a second. Um, but eventually, it's all about time and it adds up. So like people coming in, they start talking, which is fine at first because it's fun. But when you start doing it more, like, can you imagine if you had 10 people a week showing up to your house for fish, and they all want to come in for an hour, and then they all want you to catch specific fish? It adds up and up and up. So I'm just preparing you for that. So a way you can avoid that is what I do, just pre-sell them. You're getting 5 mutt guppies, you're getting 10 mutt guppies. They come from these strains, you could get something. Fish and Floral says, I use the crushed eggshells as Steven suggests. I have a video on it. I suggest you watch it. It's super easy. Super easy. And it's basically free if you're already buying eggs. Mrs. Mellowhead says, I plead the fifth on OFR visits at SC Aquatics. I'll keep your secrets. I feel like your secrets are worse than my secrets. Just don't put crayfish in with plants that you don't want eaten. The voracious plant eaters. I did not know that, so that's a good tip, Chevy Fish. My crayfish love my extra duckweed. Okay. I have duckweed I can give them. All right, so this is the question that I was going to address. Mrs. Melhead says, or not question, but statement. In all seriousness, at SC, Freya, which is her axolotl, which was my axolotl, which was OFR's axolotl. The metalheads, just to catch you guys up, have both of my axolotls now. I donated them to the metalhead family. But she says Freya is getting fat, so we may have baby axolotl soon. That is quite possible, especially in a new home. I'm sure you guys have been feeding them really well. It just loves in the air. Okay. I hear a Venus. Let's just come back in. I do want to show you the axolotl tank because I did do something today on my lunch break with it. So I'm basically prepping the axolotl tank. It's going to be the new, come on. Wait for Charlotte. It's going to be the new Barbados Cories. And because it's unheated and it's a better tank form, so it's perfect. And it's going to get gurgly over here. We mentioned this last live stream as somebody was wondering what this gurgling noise is. It's this jet lifter pump. But anyways, here's the tank. It's kind of, I guess, you can see everything. It's a little dark, but anyways, I started putting some Dwarf Sagittaria. I was about to say chainsaw. Dwarf Sagittaria in the foreground. And this is, I mean, it's a carpeting plant. It's like Valsinaria, so it sends off little runners. So this started off all as one plant in my fry rack, and then it shoots a little runner, a new plant, a little runner, a new plant. And I just wanted to add some more green to this tank. So there wasn't any small plants in here before because the axolotls, they kind of will crush everything. They'll lay on top of plants. The Nubius got a little beat up, but it's, coming back. That's also because the lighting was off for a long time when my light decided to take a swim in the tank. But I planted some over there. And I'm just going to let it go and see how it does. This is a very, very low light tank, and these plants came out of the fry rack, which is super high light. It's extremely high, and I'll show you. Flip. So you can actually see some of the plants are still pulled up from this afternoon because this started as one plant, so it's all, this part actually started from this pot, but it's kind of filled in this whole area. So this is what I sell, and like, I'm trying to show you. This is actually 2 plants right here. This is one, this is one. You know, you can see there's one here, one here. You know, it just goes on and on. So if you're buying Dwarf Sagittaria, this is fully converted. So this is water ready, where when you buy the plants, it comes in immerse grown. I already converted it all, and now it's just propagating like crazy. It's doing really well. But anyways, this is under a shop light, which is also 3 inches or 4 inches above the water, so it's extremely high light. So it's super small. It will get physically, bigger because most tanks aren't going to be this extreme of lighting. You can see it down here. Look at that. Like, it's a jungle. It looks awesome in my opinion. But here's the issue. These little strands. This is dwarf hairgrass. Once again, it's under such high light. It's very small. There might be 50 different pieces of plant in this tank, but look how tiny it is. And I've sold this before, and actually Von Yinzer bought some this week, and I told him, like, dude, it's just too small. Like, I feel bad sending plants there this small. And it's still the plant, it's really compacted because of the high light. So I actually ordered in a fresh batch of dwarf hairgrass. It'll be here I think Wednesday. So with plant orders, everything placed this week goes to the farm in Florida, and then they ship it on Monday. The holder. Did I just click a filter? No, I'm good. They ship it out on a Monday to my wholesaler. Wholesaler has it Tuesday. They ship it to me. I have it Wednesday. So Von Yinzer will have his plants Thursday, but it's not like he ordered them and I was like, I'm just placing a new order. I have the dwarf hairgrass out there, but I'm like, it's too small. Like, he's going to open the bag and it's going to be like this big, and he's going to be like, what the crap? So I told him, I'm like, I can refund you. I could send you. I don't even think I gave him the option to take what I actually had because it's tiny. But I said, I got more coming in. Let's give you the bigger plants. They'll be immerse grown variety, but they'll be bigger. So that way it makes your tank a little bit more filled in. But yeah. Matt Reed says, at SC Aquatics, how should I treat ick on goldfish? Okay, Matt F. So Matt F commented, I was going to comment on his comment. So Matt F said 86 is the target temp to get rid of ick, but again, that kind of temp for goldfish may be intolerable. I would probably not raise the temperature on goldfish. Goldfish actually do not like, they tolerate aquarium temperatures when people have them set to like 76 degrees, 78. They'll tolerate it. That's where my goldfish are set at. They prefer to be cooler. They are, a carp species, kind of like, koi fish. But what I would use Hikari Ick X. I've had perfect success rate with Hikari Ick X. The only downside I can ever tell somebody is this stains silicone blue. So if you got a display tank, your silicone's super nice, this will turn it blue. I don't care about silicone. I rather have healthy fish, so I use this in all my tanks, and even in the fish room, and those are not like display tanks, the blue is just like, it's not like a dark blue, but it's tinted. There is other ick medications that do not tint your water blue. I think Kick Ick is one of those. Research that, but I'm pretty sure it's Kick Ick. But And the reason I don't sell Kick Ick is because I haven't tried it. If I tried it and worked, I'd sell it. But uh, this is what I've always used. The other product is the Fritz Ick. I think it's Fix Ick, maybe. I forget the Fritz name. I heard good things about it, but I have not personally used it. But I've used Ick X an enormous amount of times, and it's always worked for me. This is what I would use for goldfish. Instead of raising temperature, I would just use Ick X. If you're afraid of turning the water blue, you can set up a hospital tank, and this is where, if you don't have another tank, you could use something like a tub, not like a bathtub, but like a tote, like a plastic storage bin. The thing is, you need filtration on it, and this is where I would always recommend everybody, not just you, but everybody, always have a spare sponge filter running. So if you're using canister filters, I would still maybe keep like a small sponge filter somewhere if you could. And I know a lot of people don't like the look of sponge filters, but if you have sponge filters, keep one extra one, because then you could totally have a tote, fill it with dechlorinated water, make sure it's the same temperature, put your goldfish in there, toss in that already cycled sponge, and then you could treat with Ick X in a smaller tank. Now, that doesn't get rid of ick in your main tank, so you would still either need to treat it, but if your goldfish was out, you could really kick up the temperature in the main tank and get rid of ick that way. If goldfish were tolerable and wouldn't stress them beyond crazy to take it to 86 degrees, I would just take a tank to 86 degrees, and that will kill ick on its own. But with goldfish, I would recommend not taking them to 86 and just using a medication. Ick X is the way to go. I've always, like, 100% success rate with getting rid of ick. Now, I'm not saying I've 100% have never had a fish die. So typically with ick, if one fish has it, they all have it because it's in the whole tank. I've had like schools of guppies. Guppies are, when I import fish, guppies are the ones that always seem to get ick. Cardinal tetras have always done really well for me, but I think most of the time it's always my live bears. But 50 guppies will have ick, and I might lose a guppy. That might be because I'm going to lose a guppy anyways because it's an import order. But fish can only handle so much stress. So shipping is a stress. New tank environment is a stress. Ick is a stress. There's so many stresses put onto them, especially like if they were in a wholesaler, which is maybe a pond, and now they're in this display tank. You got kids running around. It could be a stress item. Ick happens just from stress. It's like, I call it stress ick, which I've heard other people call it stress ick. I've literally have sold fish that come out of my fish room completely healthy, no issues. They ship somewhere and then they get ick. I've had that literally happen to me with one of my customers. I'm like, I can send them a picture, like, this is the tank they came out of, there's no ick, like, they got stress ick. But the person was like an educated fish keeper. They said, oh yeah, like, I'm treating them for ick, they're doing great. Globe Gaming says, any tips for Hornwort, first time having it? So I talked about Hornwort earlier. First time I ever bought it, I tossed it into one of my ponds and it did great. And it was just floating, it wasn't rooted. Hornwort's a stem plant, so it should be, planted into a substrate. It did great floating. I took a chunk out of it and tossed it in one of my guppy tanks, and it died. So I don't really have any tips for it. If I wanted to sound smart, I would tell you, do this, do that, but I really don't have any tips. With that plant, it's been a 50-50 for me. It either did really well or just died. I would probably make sure you don't overdo it with light. Overpowered light. So like a Fluval 3.0, if you're floating it, that's probably too much. Trying to think, well, it was under a shop light, but the shop light was higher off the water level. I don't really have a tip. If it starts to die back, instead of just getting rid of the plant, just hold on to it. It's one of my pro tips. If you ever have a plant that melts, keep it and let it go, and maybe it'll come back. I've never have planted hornwort. I've always had it floating, and it always seemed like it did better in my pond, for my indoor pond, for whatever reason. Xano said, I lost a whole set of new cherry barbs to ick. One, two, one and two died every day for about a week despite treatment. They also didn't like very hard water, I think, just too much stress. Globe Gaming said, how about Wendetti? Wendetti's, I've had awesome luck with Wendetti. There's Wendetti behind me. I think there's 5 or 6 Wendetti reds in here. I got Wendetti greens. Wendettis have been a very hardy plant for me. I have them in a lot of my tanks. Really, I don't have a tip for those because in my situation, I haven't had to do anything special with them. You know, they pretty much grow under low light all the way up to high light. My little tank in here is high light, and they just get really compact. You know, fertilizer, just you don't even have to really fertilize. Oh, sorry, camera system's telling me something outside, whatever. Yeah, really no tip. They're super hardy. You know, I've had really good luck with Crips. Um, they seem to do good in pretty much all my water parameters, whether my water's been like really hard or lacking. But I always dose fertilizer in pretty much all my tanks. And the thing is that you don't have to have fertilizer on it because the Crypt Wendetti is what I use in the axolotl tank, which is what I just showed when I was out in the family room. And because I didn't want to dose fertilizers with axolotls because that was a cold water tank and I didn't do water changes super often, so I was trying to keep nitrate levels low, so I wasn't adding nitrates with fertilizers. But if it's not a sensitive fish or animal, normal fertilizer, and they Crips seem to do really, really well. Matt said I have floating hornwort in all my guppy tanks and my Oscar tank. Matt said, I don't see any bright white spots on their bodies, just a few dull, barely visible white spots on their fins. Are you only treating for Ick-X? Would be the first question I have for you, Matt Reed. The suggestion I would have is if you're treating for Ick-X, I would also do the Med Trio, basically. Also treat for fungus and do antibiotics because you did say they were new fish. So getting Ick-X with a new fish is not something I'm surprised about, but it could be that they're also, we're talking about stress, how many different levels of stress there are on a fish. There could be something else also going on. Maybe they have actually, instead of ick, maybe it's a fungus. That's why I always treat with all three, unless I know I've had these fish for 2 years and they have ick. I'm gonna treat just ick, but being that's a new fish, I would hit them with all three, just to be safe. But you gotta make sure that you do follow the instructions as far as water changes go, and redosing. So if you're doing water changes, make sure you redose your medications. I typically will not do water changes when I'm dosing. I will still add the dose. So after 2 days, if it says do a 25% water change and then dose again, I will just dose. Matt F said he's in Canada, he can't do meds. Oh, okay. I'm in Canada, sadly I can't order it. Okay, I'm sorry. So the other thing would be salt. My recommendation would be salt then, if you're in Canada. I would definitely do salt then, being in Canada. And so I always hear on bigger YouTube channels, Aquarium Co-op, when people are from another country and they talk about they can't get stuff. It really, in this situation, all right, you got sick fish, let's try to help them. It's really I don't know, is the word humbling, but to think like, how easy is it for us to get medications here for our fish? I have a whole wall of medications right here that if, something happened, I would just, I would take one, obviously change the inventory, but, if I didn't sell this stuff, you could order right off Amazon and have it here in 2 days, or, Aquarium Co-op, or, all the many ways to get it. Um, so that really sucks that other countries have that issue where they can't get medications. So, yeah, that sucks. But yeah, I would try salt. But anyways, guys, we are at the 1 hour mark. I'm going to take the last few questions if anybody has any. But other than that, I'll be hopping off here in a minute. Go spend time with the pups. Chevy Fish says, whenever you add meds, always add extra air to the water. Meds deplete oxygen levels, air stones, water pumps, and venturi lines, etc. That's why I love sponge filters. And when I took the sponge, or not sponge filters, but I took box filters out of this tank, box filters and sponge filters are basically the same concept, just different filter media. But when I took them out of this tank, I added right there. I added an air stone. Um, I'm a firm believer in keeping air stones in tanks. Helps keep the oxygen levels, like Chevy Fish said, at their optimum level, optimum oxygen levels. Um, but also another main reason I love air stones is it breaks up all the protein film on the surface. But that's a good point, Chevy Fish. I've never thought of that because all my tanks have some sort of air stone in them. Matt reads, keep temp at the same and add aquarium salt 1 tablespoon per 10 gallons. Yes, and then it. So that's the starting point. If it doesn't seem to be having an effect, you can increase the amount. And I will. Oh wait, no, it's my bad. So I just looked this up to double check. It's not 1 per 10 gallons. It's 1 tablespoon per 3 gallons. And I'm posting a link. And this is, I guess, to a competitor website, but the article is perfect for helping everybody. And it's the Aquarium Co-op page. This is an article on salt treatment. It's very, very good article. I recommend, if you haven't read it, everybody in here read it. It's a good article. It's the level 1 treatment is like just trying to treat it with the least amount of salt, and that's 1 tablespoon per 3 gallons. And then if that's not working, you got up it. Then they say 1 tablespoon per 2 gallons. And if it's like something super crazy and medications are not working, which they aren't because you don't have medications, you go crazy. You go level 3 is what they call it, which is 1 tablespoon per gallon. That article is very, very good. It covers everything, and I'll just go over a keynote. And it says, aquarium salt does not evaporate or get filtered out. So I've kept a saltwater tank before, and this is true. So, and the other thing is salt will kill plants. So this is best to do with a hospital tank, and you can treat with salt in a separate tank than your display tank. But if you do have a display tank, let's say you don't have plants, you just want to salt your main tank, just remember the salt does not evaporate. The only way to get the salt out of the tank is to do water changes. Let me. Okay, here's another good thing in their article. Let me quote it. So Aquarium Co-op says, The question is, can I use salt for fish in quarantine? Yes, you can treat new fish using the level 1 low salt dosage for 2 weeks. This solution should eradicate roughly 60% of potential illnesses. Okay. Anyways, Matt F said that is a great Coop article. Coop, co-op Coop. I was going to link it, but wasn't sure you'd be okay with that. So Matt, thanks and thanks. So normally I would not link to like a competitor's website or something like that because that doesn't make sense. Like linking other stuff, but in this case, hands down, I will admit it. That's the best article to help a lot of people out. Is that salt? But typically, I wouldn't. In the future, if you if you're ever thinking about linking an article, just don't unless I do it, or link a competitor website or whatever. But thank you, Matt. Appreciate you. Anyways, Matt F. Matt Reed. I hope that works for you, and you know in the future. Fred said in Canada you can get meds if they're prescribed by a vet. I mean that's good, but that's like holy cow, like that's crazy. That's a lot of work. I just here you just buy it on Amazon or eBay or your local fish store through me. But anyways, guys, I am past that 1 hour mark. It's time for me to get off. Thank you for the new people that showed up tonight. If you're new here and you're still here from OFR, hit that subscribe button. I would truly appreciate it. And this was a topic night plans, and it went by quick for me. Hope it was quick for you. Maybe you learned something. If not, it was great hanging out with you guys. But anyways, thank you so much. Check out the website 614fish.com. 614 tabs will be here this week. I will email you guys once they are here. And I only got 2 cases, so we'll see how. I think a case is 12. So I got 24 bottles coming. I don't know how long they'll last, but check them out. Thank you guys so much. I will see you next Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right after OFR. But thanks, guys.